Always brings a smile to our faces here on halftime when Alyssa Orange visits us. Of course, Alyssa from Pig Trail Nation with us each Tuesday on halftime. Good afternoon, Alyssa. And how are you staying warm outside of just staying indoors?
Woo! Hey, guys. It's always great to be with you. I'm just right now chilling. I've got a little fireplace that's like an electronic fireplace, but it still pushes out heat. So that thing's been on past couple of days, helping me out.
Anything you can do, too. And basketball can be fun. That's right. Yeah, the blankets work and laying yourself up and all of that. And extra hot showers, I think, also helps, too.
Yes.
What do you take away from the loss against Tennessee? How do you view that loss? It's a bad loss, but it's a really good number one team on the road. So how did you view that?
Yeah, it was. And I think you have to look at it as a growing opportunity and a learning opportunity. I really think that Tennessee was just much more physical. And even though Arkansas started off hot, not being able to really kind of maintain any kind of rhythm. And the biggest thing that I've seen with this team is there are times where they look like a complete basketball team, and there are other times where you're like, okay, I don't understand what's going on, like something is out of sync, and they've got to figure that out and be more consistent. And so I think, again, you're on the road in a very, very tough environment against the number one team in the country. I just expected a little bit more physicality, and it was such a big storyline with Jonas Adou going back to Tennessee, and sometimes guys have their best games when that happens, and then guys don't. And I think, it kind of was a big don't with Jonas, but I want to see a little bit more physicality with this Ole Miss team, who is also coming off a win earlier this week too.
What do you think about what we see from Adou Thiero right now? That's a guy that I guess I expected to see, better performance than what we saw Saturday. I'm hoping it's a blip on the radar because he's been so good up to that point.
Yeah, I think that's a really big takeaway, too, is that when you don't have Adou Thiero scoring in double digits, you're going to suffer, specifically offensively, when you just don't really know what Nelly Davis is going to give you right now and what his role looks like. And I was talking about this earlier with some friends, but, I don't think that you take Nelly Davis out of the lineup. I think you continue to build up that confidence, but he's got to start becoming that scorer that he came in here to be, and be complementary to Adou. But Adou understands he's got a lot riding on his shoulders. Him and Boogie, they've got to not only be there on the defensive side, but also scoring. Those guys have to be in double digits. And so, yeah, I think he's 6 points, though, if that's correct, if I remember the box score correctly. Just 6 points against Tennessee is not going to help your team win, obviously, and they're going to need more from him. And so hopefully, again, back at home, get him going, get him in a rhythm, and then it kind of almost trickles down from there, in my opinion.
Alyssa, two back-to-back home games. I think they're going to be two totally different games. Ole Miss is going to slow it down and try to beat you up. Florida's going to be a track meet, and I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself. But then you go to LSU, to Missouri. Is there any way that this team you think we could run off 4 in a row, go 3-1 in this next stretch, or just am I getting ahead of myself a little bit?
Yeah, I think 3-1 is a possibility. 4-0 would be great, but it's going to be tough. And I know you're playing Florida at home, and we saw Florida go down to the wire against Kentucky in Lexington on Saturday, and that was an exciting game because, again, anytime Florida loses is a good day for me. But Florida's going to come in here, and they're just a really good, fast-paced, physical team. You got to use that home environment to your advantage. Ole Miss is beatable, and then, you go and you play LSU and you play Missouri. Both of those teams lost on Saturday. But what you don't want to do is go 0-4. And I think that that's really obvious to say, but it's also very a very strong possibility if this team can't kind of get it going and get some consistency going. You don't want to look up and now you're 0-5 in the SEC and you're a really, really big hole because it's a hard league. And winning is so difficult, especially on the road, that you're going to have to win games at home, and then you're going to have to steal some on the road. So if you can't steal them at LSU and Missouri, I don't really know where else you find them.
Hey, Alyssa, I want to ask you about the college football playoff, and in the first one on January 9th, it's the Orange Bowl, Penn State, Notre Dame. Is it kind of a game where you think this get? Speaking of winning big games, and it's a lot of a lot of the national pundits talk about how Jimmy Franklin doesn't win the big game, his record against teams in the top 10. Could this maybe put that to rest? Kind of put that to bed if Penn State could get past Notre Dame. How do you see that Orange Bowl going?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm going to be honest, I've always liked James Franklin. I have, even going back to when he was at Vanderbilt. And he's kind of a guy you always root for, even if you're not a Penn State fan or if you weren't a Vandy fan back in the day, that you want to see him have success. Because to me, I think he's a very likable coach. I think he does things the right way. I think that he's done so much with that program to get them over the hump. Just kind of that's like the one thing he just still kind of has that monkey on his shoulders. He just hasn't been able to do that yet. And he is so close right now. And it's also crazy. I know that this is a completely, I'm digressing here, but Arkansas beat Penn State a few years ago in the Outback
Citrus
Bowl in
Bowl,
Tampa,
maybe?
and then now Penn
Outback.
State. Yeah, now Penn State is where they are now, and it's just crazy to think about. But that's college football for you, and I think so. But I also think that this is a really gritty Notre Dame team, and I also too really like Marcus Freeman. I think that he is such a good coach, a player's coach, a guy that you can root for too, even if you're not a Notre Dame fan. So, that matchup is a little bit harder for me to pick a side with as opposed to the other one with Ohio State, Texas. And I'm probably going to make a lot of people mad, but I will be rooting for Texas in that game because I just cannot stand Ohio State. There are probably some people who are like, which one?
They got to put it a different way. You got to root against Ohio State, not necessarily for Texas in that case.
Okay.
It's all a matter of
I'll word it that way.
Heck, I think you can root against both teams if you want. You just root for a really, really bad game that finishes, 6-3 or something, which obviously is not going to happen.
Yeah.
But when you look at that matchup, Ohio State is a complete team. I think that the thing about Ohio State that you wonder is, do they show up? I can imagine they don't, but that's the thing about them. Do they show up? Otherwise, they're complete. They can move the ball in a variety of ways. A strong defense. They can get to the quarterback. Texas is the wild card here because you're just not sure about their ability to throw the ball deep. I think Ewers is a good college quarterback, but I think there are times where he's lucky that the ball doesn't get intercepted more often. Yeah. It's just their defense is really, really good, and I feel like Texas plays to the level of their opponent.
That's a good point. No, I think you're absolutely right. That game is going to be really interesting to see which Ohio State team shows up, and then just how Texas just always finds ways. You know what I mean? Yep. And that's where you're kind of like, okay, can they find a way against this Ohio State team that obviously since that Michigan loss is playing so well right now? I mean, that Oregon blowout was shocking to me. I don't think that they blow out Texas, though. I'm curious to see what happens. But I was going to say, I wish this Notre Dame-Penn State game was more of the national championship game and not the semifinals game that we have on Thursday.
Baseball's coming up. The perfect game rankings were released yesterday, 13th, which to me felt a little bit low. I thought you'd see Arkansas in the top 10. Now, this is the first of the polls. There'll be other ones coming out. 6 SEC teams are ranked ahead of Arkansas. So I started to think to myself, what are the question marks that those who are voting for perfect game or anybody else would have about this team? And right now, pitching is not it. I think you look at maybe first base, left field, and then just wondering about the ability for it to all gel together. And I do think that part of the reason that they're voted where they're voted is still because of losing in the Fayetteville Regional last season. Yeah.
I do. One, I'm excited for baseball. It's so crazy that it's right around the corner, and I know that you share in that with me. But you're right. 13 was kind of shocking in a sense because you're so used to them being in the top 10. But I think if you were to ask Dave, I think Dave would probably say we're probably right where we need to be because we still are figuring things out, and we don't want to sit here with a number 2 or 3 or 4 ranking bias and feel that pressure and just go out there and play baseball. And these preseason rankings are so, based off of what people think you're going to do and not necessarily what you are doing at the time. And so, I think that when you look at so many new pieces, like we're so used to now, especially in college sports, figuring themselves out as a team and who they are as a team, and then being like, okay, this team is better than what we thought. They're still growing, or they're going to have work to do. But I'm excited to see when they open up the season against Washington State at home, and then head on to Arlington, and what this baseball team looks like.
BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, and college basketball to NHL and UFC, head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use the promo code BELIEVE for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here.